Chronometry calibrated. The gateway will open in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Analyzing data. Likelihood of parallel universes now at 43%. Continuing analysis of the many worlds hypothesis.
Having done the damage to the Star Trek brand he sought to do over the course of 2 films, J.J. Abrams went off to bring his empty nostalgic core aesthetic to a galaxy far, far away. The writing partnership of Alex Kurtzman and Bob Orci ended amicably over creative differences. Kurtzman went off to develop the next decade of Star Trek television, and Paramount decided they wanted the films to go in a different direction than Orci. So, who was going to direct the 3rd film? Star Trek is about a lot of things. It's about hope for the future of humanity, embracing diversity, imagination, wonder, and discovery. But it's also about a crew alone in deep space, relying on each other to get the job done. In a word, it's about family. So how could Justin Lin say no? Welcome, everyone. I'm Gayfesh. Joining me, as always, is the lovely Moss.
Hello.
And DemonMama.
Hello.
And today we will be talking Star Trek Beyond, the unofficial Fast and the Furious movie.
Yeah.
Did either of you know that Justin Lin had directed this one before going into it?
No, I did not.
And I don't know what else he directs either.
All of the Fast and the Furious movies.
Oh, just all of those. Okay, cool. Yeah.
All the big ones, all the good ones, yeah.
Family.
Mm-hmm.
True.
I really like this one in contrast to the first 2. I think this is the best of the JJ verse trilogy. I know JJ Abrams didn't direct this one, but he still produced it. And I think because his involvement was far more minimal than it had been previously, I think that left room. I think the fact that Simon Pegg was a co-writer on this film helped a lot. Simon Pegg has written probably the greatest action comedy ever put to film, Hot Fuzz. So, he's got his chops.
It is pretty good.
And Justin Lin knows how to direct fun action. So I think they were rushed. Paramount wanted this movie to come out for the 50th anniversary. So they, I think Bob Orci had been attached as director and he had his script. And then 4 months before they were to start filming, Paramount and Bob Orci parted ways, and they brought on Justin Lin, and they were like, okay, we're going to do a new script. And they had 4 months to do it. And Simon Pegg and co-writer, they just hunkered down all right, let's get this done. And I think there's a lot of stuff in there that could have used another couple months in the writing process to get hammered out, the villain's origin and motivations. I think there's a lot of ideas in there that are good, but only half baked. So that's my initial thoughts on this.
When I finished this movie, I said, everyone told me that this one was better than the other 2. And it was. It was like getting to eat bird poop after having to eat dog poop for 2 movies in a row. And you're just like, well, thank God it's over faster and it's not as bad. I also called this movie Star Trek Beyond the Sphincter and many other mean things. I was not pleased with this movie at all. It had a lot of scatological humor to throw at it. And I will say it is definitely better than the first 2, but not by much. And I think a lot of its betterness straight up is just editing and arguably action direction, which is hand in hand a lot with editing. I will agree with you that the hand of J.J. Abrams being removed from the editing and direction process on the action scenes actually did make them more compelling. For example, this movie's opening sequence is significantly more entertaining, in my opinion, than anything in the prior movies. It is just more interesting action. You have nacelles being eaten apart by little bees, and
that whole sequence was great.
Yeah, it's more interesting. They try to fire missiles and the things go around like a swarm of birds, and there's
bees.
Yeah, bees, yeah, but it's they call them bees. They move like starlings. It's interesting. There's something to grab onto there with the action. As far as the characters and the writing, this movie it is no different than the prior 2. It is the same emptiness, and I hated it. I did hate it, and not as much as I hated Into Conness or whatever.
I don't think it's possible to hate a movie more than that.
Yeah, that movie is really bad. It's legitimately one of the worst movies I've ever seen. However, despite J.J. Abrams no longer being directly involved in this one, I will note some very serious similarities to Rise of Skywalker, which we'll get into afterwards. I'll stop here but I just hold on to that one because I have some lines that might be interesting to you.
Moss, how'd you like this one?
Yeah, I went in the first time I watched this primed to hate it because of the previous movie. And I was watching it with a group of friends, and some of them, y'all, were like, oh, this is a fun scene. And I was like, begrudgingly, like, I guess it is a fun scene or whatever. Like, just various points throughout the movie. Or like, I was hating on it, you know? I was prepared. I was like, oh, this fucking crash scene isn't even as good as the one from Star Trek 3 or whatever.
True!
Yeah, but I went and watched it again this morning, and I think that it was a fun movie. Like, I liked a lot of it just felt like, okay, this is kind of goofy Star Trek level problems. Like, so I can kind of understand there maybe being a criticism of like, oh, it didn't feel like it was that deep, or like the motivations weren't fleshed out. And I'm like, yeah, that's because Star Trek episodes are 40 minutes long, and they just kind of chose to go with the same level of like, we don't have time to get into all that nonsense, which is a valid criticism. But I was like, okay, there's this character tension around people wanting to leave their positions and like finding the joy in their jobs again, or realizing that they need each other, which was good. I'm reminded of like Christina Koch's comments about like what it means to be a crew related to kind of the whole family vibe. Just like, you know, you have to really rely on each other, and it matters, and you get folded into a group sometimes, like with Jayla. And I don't know, I really liked her character. I thought that she was like very clever and strong-willed, and the makeup was so fire, and I liked the special effects for the most part in this movie.
I cannot believe this movie lost the Oscar for best makeup to fucking Suicide Squad.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
With how they made her brow bones disappear, that was so good.
The makeup in this movie was insane. Because it was the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, the makeup department decided, well, let's make 50 aliens. Not 50 alien actors, 50 different alien species with multiples for like all of the extras and stuff like that. And like it shows. You've got like Chekhov hitting on that like mollusk lady at the end of the movie.
Oh, I love that. I love her.
Insane design.
He's got such good taste. He's got
Ensign
such good
Sill
taste.
with the head crab legs on her thing.
Yeah,
like,
that was cool too.
Making the design plot relevant was awesome.
It is. I mean, I wish that the design had been plot relevant in a more intelligent way than just like, oh, she shoved it in her head. But like, it was kind of like that. I meant to say this in my intro, but I got a little distracted, and so I'll give Grant one bonus point to this movie, which I do actually think that the alien makeup and the alien designs overall were really interesting and cool. I think there was a small problem with lots of aliens appearing orc-like, but that is mostly contained to the villains, where they all kind of look like orcs. And I was like, could maybe have done a little more there.
Or like a fucked up Cardassian or something. Like,
yeah, where's our Cardassians? But I guess it's TOS, so they would have never had contact with them or something. But I feel like they probably would have.
There was a reference to a Cardassian sunrise, which was a drink that Uhura ordered in the first one. But that was
there we go. Make them Cardassians. Give them the big neck fins. Yeah, I don't know. They were pretty good overall. And yeah, at the end, it was nice to see a couple different alien types and whatnot.
The city is so cool. At first, I was like, this is dumb and lame. But then I thought about it more, and I was like, actually, this is really clever. Like the fact that it's got all the different rings, and that they're using both sides of the rings because they can just do artificial gravity wherever they want to. I'm like, that's a really nice idea of a future city, or Starbase, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh, I hated that city. And
I know exactly why you hate it. But go ahead.
All right. Well, I'll say why. All right. Yeah. Like, I mean, I hated it because it has no restraint, and you can't take any of it in. It's like, why does it have to be 9 rings? Why can't they just do 1? Or even 2 if you really need to be out there. Like, it's just so, it's not even maximalist, because I remember thinking about this for a while I was watching the movie. There's a really great comic that I like called Kill 6 Billion Demons. Some people may have heard of it. It's really amazing. And it has an approach in its design of everything to be hyper maximalist. And there's a city in Kill 6 Billion Demons that is basically the convergence point of all different realities. All realities cross at this one point, and therefore a huge city has like been made there. And that city, I couldn't help but think of that city when I was seeing this and I was just like, they didn't commit to it. If you're going to have a city with 9 orbiting rings, no one is going to be like just walking around like it's New York City. It's going to be a really chaotic and weird place. And it just wasn't. It was just kind of like, here's a million rings. Look at them. All right, let's move on. And I don't know. I just am like, if you're going to go that big and you're going to be that maximalist, it just comes off as key jingling if that's where you leave it. If you just go, wow, 9 rings. And if not, like, just give it one. Just have it be one that you have, like, this has its own distinct culture and it has its own unique way of living. And also, of course, I couldn't help but think about Deep Space Nine and how Deep Space Nine sells a better image of like a convergence of many cultures than Yorktown Waypoint or whatever it was called. Yorktown Waypoint. And that it's just like, I didn't ever get any feeling that this was an actual place. It just felt like a computer generated, generate me a big city with 9 rings in it.
All right. So you would say it was a little soulless?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Because they filmed it in Dubai.
Oh, that literally makes so much sense. That's perfect, actually. Never mind. I take it back. It's a perfect critique of the real world. Now that I know that it was filmed in Dubai, that's like literally, it actually is just reality. Oh my God. Never mind. This movie's genius.
Yep.
Holy shit.
I always had problems with the design of Yorktown. I thought it was an impractical design. I thought when McCoy called it a snow globe in space that could just blow up, I was like, yeah, no, it is. It's not a good, like, you don't want a space station to have that kind of big open design. It feels like it could just break. And then to know that it was filmed in one of the most evil places on the planet, one of the most soulless, oil money, slavery built places on the planet. Like, I don't know, that's not where I envision Star Trek going. So I think Yorktown was one of the weaker parts of the film. Fortunately, they stay away from it for the most part.
They don't really give it much space, which is like, okay, cool. All right.
But yeah, no, when I found out it was Dubai, I was like, wow, like, no wonder I hated this place.
It's just the place where gay Sulu's daughter lives, and you have to care about it for that reason.
Well, okay, there's that, but also, like,
hey, they beat Star Wars to the punch.
It's Sulu's TV gay husband. They don't actually kiss. They just adopt a daughter together and go jogging, and maybe if they kiss, it's a chaste peck, on the cheek.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's safe.
Pete Buttigieg-esque.
George Takei himself said he didn't like that they were making Sulu gay because in his mind that when he had approached Gene Roddenberry kind of obliquely about doing, some gay stories in TOS, and Roddenberry, who, I think could read between the lines, was just like, George, they will take us off the air. And so he's like, no, Sulu is straight. And I don't know if it was the case, but George Takei basically said, Gene Roddenberry envisioned Sulu as straight, so I don't like that they're changing this, which is like, okay, but this isn't you. This is a different Sulu for one. But also, they didn't do anything with it, so like, what does it matter?
Yeah, they didn't. It didn't matter.
Also, like, why wouldn't you be happy about the new representation? Like, the fact that you have the opportunity now to do what you couldn't do 60 years ago or whatever.
I mean, I think it's valid. Like, I don't know. George Takei lived through Japanese internment.
Yeah.
He lived through the AIDS crisis. He lived through a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to disrespect an old guy, but I don't get it.
I could just imagine him just not being that moved by 2.5 seconds of like 2 guys walking away in the distance, and then it immediately just moves on. Like, I can imagine that being like, just look, fucking may as well just had him stay het, I could feel like that. I could get that. And he's not even the most jaded guy in any way, like, but I can understand that, I think.
It's the desperation for representation. Like, I want to see gay people. It's like, I'm reading a book right now by a fantasy author that I've read a lot of his books, and I'm reading a sci-fi of his now. And I've always kind of wondered, like, you are a weird homeschool guy. Are you into the gay couples thing? Or like, are you anti-trans? Like, I don't know. I don't want him to say anything publicly because I like that I can enjoy his work and not have to think about it too hard. But reading in the sci-fi, and I was like, this is the future. That's different than your medieval setting where this might be covert, or maybe, if you're in the young adult genre, maybe you're just trying to avoid a certain kind of press for your book. But it's like the sci-fi is adult and it does have gayness in it. And I'm like, okay, that's a relief. So like, when you have these future fantasies, and I've seen Black folks talk about this, where they're like, where are the Black people in your future fantasy? What did you do to all of us that there aren't any in your future fantasy? I feel kind of similarly about like gay and trans people. I'm like, where are we? We necessarily have to be there. And if we're not there openly, then there is some kind of shady shit going on. And so at the very minimum, I like that there is a blip of it, even if I understand that it's a blip so that they can easily edit it out to sell in China. Like, I get it. I know they're doing that with the Marvel movies. They had like a scene where Valkyrie hooked up with a girl and they just kind of omitted it. It's like, okay, but I want to see us in shit. So I'm like, even if it's crumbs, I'm like, please, thank you.
In the Star Trek universe, all the queers are hanging out in DS9. That's where it's all happening.
Yeah, I got to get into DS9, I've heard.
It's funny because, like, in terms of explicit gay and trans and just overall queer representation in Star Trek Discovery is the big one because it literally has a gay married couple who have adopted 2 trans kids. And even with that, Deep Space Nine is still the gay trans show that all the gays and the trans is like.
Well, I think the part of the reason for that is that not to take this whole thing and make it about DS9, but I think DS9 takes the subject matter more important than the appearance. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. I mean, Jadzia's, everybody posts that meme of like, Curzon, my old friend. I'm Jadzia now. Jadzia, my old friend. Like, it's so beautiful. And it's such a beautiful moment that is so effortless. DS9 has such a basic level respect for the concepts and the people that it's trying to talk about. And it doesn't have to go, hello, here is Officer Gay and his daughter, transgender. Sure. It can be like,
you haven't seen Discovery, so I'll let you, you can say that, but
I'm not trying to take a shot at Discovery. I'm taking a shot at everything else. I don't know. Discovery might be great in that regard. I'm just saying, like, this movie definitely does that, where it's just like, there you go. Look, everybody remember that George Takei was gay. Here's your obligatory he's gay moment. Bye. Let's move on.
There's also the fact that they were filming him and his gay husband and their gay daughter in Dubai. They probably would have not been allowed to film a kiss.
That is a good point. It's an evil place.
Good. To get back onto the city so we can not spend the whole time being giga woke or whatever. But like the city, I just point to 2 other examples in pop media. I'll go to video games in this case because people often, there's this whole back and forth about cinema versus video games, whatever. I don't care about that. The presentation of an interesting city in space that's a nexus. One is a literal ring, and that's in Halo. The way that the Halo ring, which is just one ring, is presented and visualized, and it builds awe and wonder in a very organic and beautiful way. And then also in the Mass Effect games, I'm going to blank on the name of the station because I just can't remember it off the top of my head. But in the Mass Effect games, specifically the first one, there's this large relay city that everybody's kind of built around. It's a gigantic spaceport, and it sells the fantasy and the feeling of what they clearly wanted to try and invoke with Waypoint Yorktown so much better than 9 rings using the like Transformers fake Greebles effect. Like, I just
since the movie moved away from Yorktown, except for the end action scene, let's move away from Yorktown. Let's go to the alien planet where the majority of the movie took place, and let's talk about the way that this movie actually managed to capture the character dynamics of the original series a lot better than the previous 2 did. Because Simon Pegg did a very smart thing by pairing off Bones and Spock. And we finally just get a whole movie of those 2 bickering together, and it's glorious.
Yeah, it's probably the best part of the movie on a character level. It's still not that deep, but it is a good decision to pair those 2. Getting them to have their little marital spats, so to say. I do like the part where he's like, what's your favorite color? And then hits him with the...
the cauterizing iron, yeah.
Yeah, the cauterizing thing, which some of the like physical action in that scene was a little funny to me. Like him like slamming the rock and being like, oh, you turned your ship's weapon into an arm cannon with like a rock. Like, all right, dude, I'm a doctor, not a primitive technician.
And there was like a deliberate choice to be like, okay, let's take a couple characters, like maybe the characters who haven't got as much development. Let's pair them off with the main one. Like they get Chekhov with Kirk, and they get Sulu with Uhura. And then they have, Scotty off with Jayla, so that I actually really love the dynamic between Scotty and Jayla. I think they play off each other very nicely. I really like Jayla. Sophia Boutella does a great job with that performance. Also, I found out that her name Jayla is actually based on Jennifer Lawrence, and that's because they based her character off of Jennifer Lawrence's character in Winter's Bone. And when they were writing, before they had come up with a name, they just were saying, the J-Law character.
That is a wild fact. I am like the biggest stan for Winter's Bone.
Mm-hmm.
I've begotten so many people to watch that movie. It was the movie where I was like, damn, this girl's got the sauce. It's also a movie that hits very close to home for me. I see, now that you mention it, where they would have drawn that from. But boy, oh boy, did they miss the heart and soul of that movie in this character.
Well, I don't think they were trying to recreate Winter's Bone. I think that was just where they were drawing inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, that movie is heart-wrenching. And, in a way that it does go deep in a way of, a kid having to raise herself. And, it explores that concept very deeply and very unapologetically. It depicts a lot of genuine horror.
Something just occurred to me, which is that in the pairing off of Chekhov and Kirk, Chekhov has kind of become the little Kirk of this universe. We've all established the Kirk of this universe, not the same as the old Kirk. Why did you butcher his character? Why is he a womanizer? All of this. Chekhov is hitting on 4 different women or getting rejected by or flirting with or ogling 4 or 5 different women in this.
So that's not him becoming the Kirk of this universe. Chekhov in the original series, they brought him in because, they wanted somebody who was a younger kind of a heartthrob, and they had him pairing off with other cute officers in random episodes here and there. So that's kind of what he was doing on the original series, that and just saying weird things about Russia.
Sure.
Which they incorporate all that in here too. So yeah, this movie was the one where let's find all the weird shit that Chekhov did in the original series and let's shove that all in there.
Chekhov is just filling the niche since Kirk is older now. There has to be at least one.
I think this version of Kirk that they got is far closer to the one that we see in the original series and the original films.
Yeah, it's weird. Kirk is weird in these movies. This is the first movie where I didn't feel like I hated him, where I was like, God, this guy's such an annoying asshole.
Yeah.
And in this one, they tone it down a lot, and I think that's a smart move. I don't really know that they give it much else to fill the empty space, but it's definitely, he's not as much of an asshole. And I think that works better for his character, because I just kind of hated him in the first 2 movies, where I'm just like, man, this guy sucks.
Under whose authority does McCoy confiscate that whiskey? That's not nice.
His own. As a buddy.
His own. He just stole it.
Yeah. The authority I've endowed upon myself. I am confiscating this liquor.
Okay, since alcohol has medicinal properties, and since they're out in deep space on a 5-year mission, the ship's doctor can overrule the captain in medical decisions.
Yeah.
And so as ship's doctor, he has the authority when needed to appropriate medical equipment such as alcohol at his discretion. So that would be the report that he wrote.
Yeah, sure.
In the characters, I think one of my biggest frustrations about this movie is that I feel like it kind of fails to establish anything meaningful other than basically banter between the characters. But with Bones and Kirk, there's the start of something. He says something about, you've spent 35 years trying to be George Kirk. What about Jim? But then that doesn't really go anywhere, really. Except for maybe he says, I want to be a captain at the end. But we kind of know that he likes being a captain already.
Well, they had the brief arc that I feel was even added in reshoots, Shohreh Aghdashloo's character, the admiral at Yorktown. I'm pretty sure she was a reshoot character. So anything with her in there was all reshoots. And so I think they decided to tack that on to try and build an arc for him of he's not sure he wants to be there. And, you notice that for the vast majority of the film, they're not addressing the fact that Kirk is thinking of hanging up the captain's chair and Spock is thinking of going to Vulcan. It's just very few specific scenes where they address it that are very obviously stuff that could have been reshot.
Absolutely. And I hate the way that it resolves, because it actually goes against the only like meaningful character development in the previous movie that happened between Spock and Kirk, which was that they needed to talk to each other about things. And in this movie, the conclusion is actually it's all good that you didn't talk to each other about things. Like, in fact, hide it from each other even further.
They had already made up their minds before they talked
That's
to
true,
each other.
but, like,
So, yeah.
it's like they didn't have to write it that way. There's like a whole bunch of space in this movie that could have been like them like struggling to not just wall each other out again, but it all resolves itself conveniently without them having to do anything with one another. In fact, they're literally physically separated for most of the movie, and they figure it out on their own. And then they're like, well, buddy, it's good to be friends with you. Yes, it is.
That may have been a decision of economy of characters and giving the rest of the cast opportunity to do things like that. That just might have been a casualty of being like, can we let the other characters actually do something in this movie?
True.
That is definitely a problem that Into Darkness had.
Yeah, I am glad that they gave the characters things to do. I just wish they were more impactful because like I feel like the characters, they were on screen more, and that's good. But we didn't really develop them as characters. There's not really any of these characters that don't change or grow or really learn anything. None of them. I barely even remember Uhura and Sulu's stuff. Like, I know at one point he's like, this is me you're talking about.
Uhura is the one who was there to listen to hear what Krall's ideology is and spent enough time with him to recognize his voice when she saw that he was Captain Edison.
I did kind of wish that there was something with the prisoners, like, maybe like a side plot of them trying to escape.
Yeah.
Or subterfuge or gather information or something. I felt like there was something missing there. But otherwise, I kind of felt like a lot of the problem solving in this movie, like, yes, this movie is not so much about character development, or the character development that happens is kind of on the side. It's about solving problems, which is what Star Trek is about. It's like about finding a diplomatic solution or escaping or finding an engineering solution. And I felt like this movie contained a lot of those aspects of we have to understand our enemy, and that's going to be how we help resolve the situation. And like, we have a scrappy small crew. We're cut off from our resources, so we have to be clever. I thought that the Hollow stuff was really clever, like hiding the whole USS Franklin, utilizing that as part of their distraction at the end of the movie, or not the end of the movie, but you know what I mean, during the escape scene.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of want to talk about the whole the use of the Franklin and how I think the film could have made a better point of like emphasizing something that I think was in the intent for how they were writing it, where you strip away the Enterprise from the crew, right? That is the point of the movie, is they are on their own. They do not have their advanced technology. Yeah. It's just them.
I'm sending the ship and her crew, and then you're all only left with the crew.
Yeah. They find this old ship, it's 100 years old, versus Krall, who has technology that is older, but obviously more advanced. And you could have done something about how, because Krall's whole thing is how the Federation has grown weak from, it's the whole, good times make weak men. And he's, the guy who is made in hard times. They could have done more to emphasize that. But the fact that the crew, just with their guile and their, and their, know-how and working together, take this dinky old Warp 4 starship and use a 200-year-old song to blow up a fleet because they're just clever. And they're not warriors. They're scientists, and they're smarter than him, and they know how to do that because they work together. And there could have been something more there. I also think it's a little undercut by the fact that Krall's fleet is a swarm of ships that work together.
Yes, it makes no sense. And he also literally has a line earlier in the movie where he's like, yes, I know the fruits of working together. He says something like that, and then I don't remember exactly what it is that he does after that, but it's like,
he says your unity is your weakness because he threatens Sulu, and that's what gets Syl to give up the Abernath. And he also talks about how the strength of others has kept him alive for a long time, and then he goes, when he sucks the life.
Oh God, there's so much I want to talk about with Krall. This is the perfect opportunity to talk about one thing, which is they did it again. They did it again, like in the first movie. So in the first of this series, I brought up the fact that there was this torture room where for some reason everybody has to wade in shin deep water. And there's no conceivable reason why that's the case. Nothing. It's just hilariously stupid. It's like, yes, make sure that you put him in the wet torture room. And in this one, it's the wire chamber, the loose wire closet. So he goes to like sap the life out of people, and for some reason there's like two people that are tied up in like tubes. They look like some kind of like vacuum, like the tubes of a vacuum. And then there's a bunch of random wires that he has to bump into. He's like, yes, I need to feel the wires bumping into me while I'm sucking their life, even though it's demonstrated at multiple points throughout the movie that he could just suck life out of anybody anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm
He's
just
got a
like, so
device
yeah,
on
you
him,
gotta, it's not even it literally is just like, oh, well, we thought it looked creepy if there were like noodly wires that he had to smack out of the way. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. When you go to eat a snack, do you like step into a room where there's a bunch of pipes you could just bump your head on randomly? It like makes no sense.
Maybe. You don't know my life.
I mean, sure, but I'm just like, I don't get it. Obviously they were trying to make it look spooky and scary, and I was just like, it doesn't look spooky. It looks dumb as shit. And there were so many things like that where it was like they tried to do Rule of Cool, but for things that aren't cool and aren't like interesting. And Crawl was like the focus point of almost all of those types of things. The fucking noodle room, the weird prison camp that I don't even know why they made it a part of the movie. They could have done it CG and it probably would have made more sense. His entire fleet.
That prison camp was all practical, actually. They built that whole thing out of a quarry.
That's cool.
I know. And I am almost always a fan of practical effects. It just feels like it was one of those situations like in the first one where it was like we had access to a blank. And it's like, oh, well, we had access to a quarry. We had access to
you
a
always
nuclear
have access
room.
to a quarry. It's science fiction.
I mean,
That's
sure.
the thing
but
that
I
you
mean,
have access to in science fiction is
yeah,
quarries.
I mean, that's true. But I mean, I don't know. It was like, oh, they have this camp, a mining camp that apparently it has, I think he has a throwaway line at some point that's like, oh, there's like a stone that makes you not age or something. But I don't know. There's no structure given to the camp. They have like 3 scenes there where people are just kind of milling around and standing in a cluster looking scared. And this also opens the door to something that really bothered me throughout the entire latter half of the film, which was a direct line to Rise of Skywalker. The sheer number of dudes that he can just materialize out of nowhere.
True.
So this guy has a swarm, and it is established at multiple points in the movie that all of his ships, there are 2 people in there. There are millions of these at the end of the film. Literally millions of ships, which means there are double that many of people hanging out there. Not one of them shows up to prevent the prison break. Not one. They don't have any sort of a society on this planet. They just kind of sit in their ship all the time and wait for him to be like, it's time to activate the swarm. And I was just sitting there going, this is so stupid that I can't stop thinking about how dumb this is. And at one point he even like undermines the obvious explanation, which he goes like, yes, the native people of this planet, they all left it long ago. And I'm like, okay, so who are these people? And why do they look like you? Why do they look like him when we know that he looks like an orc because he's like sucking people off?
We really only saw the faces of like, there was his right-hand man guy who was named Manos, the Hands of Fate or whatever. And then you had the girl who lured the Enterprise there. But everyone else was wearing a mask.
Yeah, they were all wearing those suits.
The other 2, I'm pretty sure, were just part of his crew on the Franklin originally.
And who were they sucking off to turn into orcs?
They kept luring people to the planet. You know, Jayla, that's how she ended up there. So they were just,
and nobody ever said, hey, why do fucking ships keep going missing here? Like, I just find
a
that
fucking
hard.
Nebula with a bunch of rocks smashing into each other.
It blocked communication.
If people in like 1320 could go, we keep having ships that are supposed to be on our logbook and they disappear in this strange triangle. Oh, the Bermuda Triangle. If they could do that kind of thing.
When I was a kid, I thought the Bermuda Triangle was going to be an actual problem.
So something that they don't talk about here is, so it's like a mystery where the USS Franklin went. Like they don't even know where it disappeared. So did they not have FTL communications yet?
They did. They had subspace, but like the transmissions out of the nebula were like difficult
specifically
to make
in the nebula.
the first place.
And they wouldn't know that there was a nebula there because their one ship that had been there didn't report back.
No, they did. They knew the nebula was there. They
just didn't know what happened to the Franklin. And they crashed the ship, and I don't know. It was a ship full of jarheads. They probably didn't know how to fix the radio.
True. Yeah, there's you need some more engineers on that that ship.
Well, they never thought to take all their their millions of swarm ships and just fly out of the nebula like they did at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And just go, hey guys, we've been lost for a while. I think you owe us some social benefits.
I feel like at that point he had already turned against the Federation. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. He's been sitting there sucking people off for a while. So
the manner in which the swarm takes down ships is pretty epic. Like that scene of the Enterprise getting absolutely fucking destroyed was pretty epic. It was clever for someone to have to think about the swarm, like from a writing perspective, like someone in the writer's room had to think of that and execute on it. And that was really cool. And the CGI was pretty cool too. And disconnecting the nacelles first and then disconnecting the saucer from the impulse engines, just all very nifty stuff from someone had to think of that perspective.
No doubt the action is better. I mean, it's definitely not the first swarm ship concept that has ever been done or anything like that, but it's definitely there's more thought put into it than the first two movies for sure.
Yeah.
It would be cool if there was anything to plug into that, and there just doesn't feel like there is any. Again, there's no stakes to any of the things that really happen meaningfully. There's some place that you don't care about, some guy that you don't understand. That 75% of the movie goes by with no understanding of what the fuck this Idris Elba character is doing. He's just kind of I'll show you what. In the end, and then he's I want revenge because they forgot about me. And it's dude, really? That's it? Yeah. It was fucking dumb. And whoever directed Idris Elba in this movie needs to have a remedial directing class, because when
it would
they
be
told
Justin
him
Lin, the director of the movie.
Then it's Justin Lin, because if he was the one who was telling, okay, Idris Elba, now walk around like you're Smeagol, but you don't want to be here, was just oh my god, it was such a waste of Idris Elba's talent to be I'm gonna walk around with a weird hunch for 2 seconds and then get CGI'd into doing weird action. Just oh my god, I hated everything to do with the villain. It made me so mad. I was just I don't know, guys. I don't know.
One thing that I actually really liked, it's a small detail, but it's the kind of small detail that I wish that these movies had actually been doing, is that when the saucer's crashing and Kirk says, get to your Kelvin pods, which they don't really explain it, but then they run to escape pods that are on the bridge. And since the Kelvin is the ship that, blew up, that automatically has you can put together the story that they're called Kelvin pods because after the destruction of the Kelvin, Starfleet was okay, we need to make something so that if that happens again, we don't have a George Kirk is dead situation. Let's build an escape pod on the bridge. And they named it after him. And it's that kind of building off of the lore that you yourself have created rather than reheating leftovers.
Yeah.
That's what they should have been doing this whole time.
This movie was way better about not just having characters look at the screen and say an iconic line. Although they did another one with Bones again, where I'm
They cut him off before he finished the line. I'm a doctor, not and then they beamed him off.
It's cheeky, but
it's fine. He always said that on the show. I'm not gonna protest if they have him say it once a movie.
Fair. But another thing we didn't even talk about, the super weapon thing, it is the most this suffered from writing changes thing in this entire movie, maybe, where it's it starts out that it's a random doodad that they're going to give to some frog people. And they're they didn't take the time to go oh, wait a second, this is an active super weapon. No one at Starfleet was hey guys, if you turn this thing counterclockwise, it is going to unleash.
It needed to be.
At that point?
Yeah. They explicitly say that the Abernath was broken in two pieces by the ancient ones on the planet and scattered to the stars. So they only had the one piece.
Okay. Sorry. That's just I missed a detail. I thought they put the two together and then that's why he wanted it. But that makes sense.
Idris Elba put them together. Yeah.
Even still, it is the most. It's the part of this movie that's the most the first one, where it's very convenient. It's this weird little tool that they were giving to frog people that are seemingly disconnected, ends up being a weapon that doesn't really need to exist because the guy already has the most powerful super weapon ever, which is his swarm of coordinated ships. He needs a thing that can fill a room with acid. And I'm just it was not even as compelling as the red goo from, was that the first movie? Yeah, the first movie.
The red matter.
Where it's okay, well, red matter's scarier than this shit. And this shit is like what you can like slowly fill a room up and take somebody apart, and it's like I don't know, we never know what it is. Like, is it like supposed to be like a self-replicating thing? It doesn't seem to be. It kind of goes away.
I mean, they were worried that by plugging it into the station's AC that it was going to kill everyone. So I think we can just
kill everyone, but
it fills the volume of whatever it has. And when they killed Phil with it, it was a non-ventilated room. That's where I'm going with it.
Sure, yeah, like that makes sense, I guess. Like, but it just felt like it was like extraneous when they could have just been like, this guy's swarm is going to blow up the city, and then you don't need to have this Arbonath thing.
It's there because like he's been monitoring Enterprise communications, and that's when he like learns that they've got the Abernath, and that's why he lures them out there. So,
which if he can do that, then shouldn't he be able to be like, hey guys, I got left on this planet. Can you come give me some free
how is he monitoring communications from inside the nebula?
Yeah, how's he doing it from inside? I thought the communications could get into the nebula.
You know what? That's a good question.
We found it. We found the plot hole.
There we go. Abernath, also another tie, by the way, to Rise of Skywalker. It is not as bad, but it's like the piece that goes to a piece that goes to a piece that then reveals the actual thing that's dangerous, which isn't even the thing at all. So it's like the ultimate MacGuffin. It's a MacGuffin that like...
It is a MacGuffin.
It's a self-negating MacGuffin that's like, okay, well, why didn't you just have this guy be like, I want to get revenge on the Federation? You don't need to have a MacGuffin. He didn't need it. He had a swarm ship and 1 million guys. Like, just have him be like, I hate the Federation.
Well, he read the script and saw the Beastie Boys was going to blow up his swarm, so he needed the Abernath as a last-ditch thing.
Well, yeah, he foresaw exactly.
By the way, I'm totally fine with the Beastie Boys blowing up the swarm.
Sure.
It was fucking funny. That was great.
That's the solution that I thought was like, okay, that's funny. They're like gonna disrupt their hearing, so
they crash into each other.
They all get screwed up. Like, it's kind of a dumb solution for how much screen time
but
you
it's
have.
fun.
But like, it's fun. It's fun enough. And I was fine with that. There's so many things that are just like, you don't need an Abernath subplot to make all that happen. In fact, it's better if it's not there. Guy has vengeful fantasies. He gets undermined by something that was sitting right under his nose the entire time that he didn't have the wherewithal to see because he's too busy being evil. It's like the radio was sitting right there. If he took the time to befriend people, he would have known about the radio. He could have played cool music over the radio and they might have fought stronger. But instead, he misses out. Just like, I don't know, it's everything in this entire Kelvin verse just feels so pointless. And I think that's what makes these movies so particularly irritating to me personally. It's the pointlessness. It's all just so empty.
Well, that's to make a movie to sell money or to get money.
Sell money. Yep.
Sell money.
Exactly.
Well, I think this movie did flop, so maybe they did sell money. But I don't know. Yeah, I think this movie is imperfect. I think it could have stood with not being rushed to production, but for what it is, I find it very enjoyable. It's the one that if I'm going to watch any of them, I'm going to watch this one, any of them being the Kelvinverse movies. But I wasn't going into this with any illusions that DemonMama was going to have a good time, but that's okay because when you have a bad time, we have a good podcast about it. So
I do my best, at least. I mean, I do like watching movies that I like. But yeah, I mean, I can charge up some of my ire for stuff like this. I think we have to watch like section 6-7 after this or something, right?
31, yeah. Which is interesting because that is, in fact, the only piece of Star Trek media, not counting books and comics and whatnot, but like canon media that I have yet to see.
Wow.
I'm so excited to watch it with you.
Yeah. So I have heard, not to color everyone's expectations, but I have heard that it is quite possibly the worst thing ever made.
Oh.
And I kind of want to go into it with an open mind with very low expectations, because if I hear it's the worst thing ever made, well, the worst thing that it could do there is not be the worst thing ever made and disappoint me in that way. So
I'm dreading this and also a little bit interested because now I have to compete it against the other worst things ever made that I've seen, which are not few. I have seen some pretty bad shit, and I will say that the Into Darkness is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
It's so bad.
It's definitely up there. It's really bad, but there's also things like Rebel Moon, and I'm interested to see if there's a movie out there that could top Rebel Moon 2.
I'm just going to say that I liked this movie and it was fun and it felt like Star Trek, and I hated the previous movie. The previous movie spat, quack-tua, spat on the legacy of Star Trek. And this movie felt like it was trying its best to honor the legacy of Star Trek. And I appreciate Simon Pegg for that.
No doubt Simon Pegg is a more passionate writer.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And also Simon Pegg he loves fucking Star Trek. Although Bob Orci also fucking loves Star Trek. They were both big Trekkies. So that didn't stop Bob Orci from writing the worst Star Trek movie ever. But we can't give him all the credit. Damon Lindelof also was working on that script.
Yeah. How dare everybody involved in that project?
There was one line early in the movie where I pointed at the screen and went, "You stole that from Galaxy Quest." Star Trek is now at the point where they are stealing from their own pastiche. And it was after Kirk beams back from the planet of the little angry roly-polies, and he tells Scotty, "I ripped my shirt again," which is from Galaxy Quest when they beam Captain Taggart back, and the guy goes, "I see you've managed to get your shirt off again." They stole it. I mean, obviously it was a reference to Kirk always doing that in the original series, but still, it's a joke that Galaxy Quest made first.
I did at one point in this movie go, "By Grabthar's hammer, oh, what a savings." And that got some chuckles out of the room because that's how I was feeling at the moment. I was just like, oh, here we go. And so I was just like, that's the only line I could think of. And I was like, I wish I was watching Galaxy Quest right now.
You can watch Galaxy Quest anytime you want. That's the beauty
I couldn't while I was watching this. That's the thing. See?
Oh, well, now you can. You're free to do so.
Now I can go watch a movie I really love. I fucking love Galaxy Quest.
I want to see the R-rated cut of Galaxy Quest.
Truly.
There was an article out there a little bit, talking about, and I think we talked about some of the, when we reviewed Galaxy Quest, I think we talked about some of the changes.
The weird editing, editing out certain parts and getting the F-bombs out of there. And
I want to see it. I want to see the version where Sigourney Weaver says fuck. That sounds like a fun time.
I want to see the movie where they have an explicit sex scene between the alien and Tony Shalhoub's character.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do it, you cowards.
Yeah, give me the X-rated cut.
I don't think they had the X-rated cut. I think they had an R-rated cut.
Rule 34.
Somebody should make the X-rated cut.
You said Rule 34, and I was like, well, we're watching Section 31, and now I'm just thinking about different numbers in Star Trek, and I was trying to work a way to get it to 47, and I don't know. I instead I just verbalized my thought process, and I don't have anything.
Sometimes that's a good stand-in for a joke. Explain the thought process where you think something funny lives, and let the audience fill it in the blanks for themselves.
Audience, leave a comment with your best attempt at finding a joke out of numbers. And 6, 7, no, that doesn't count. DemonMama already took that one, so you don't get credit for it.
I was thinking all day yesterday that it was a holiday for the kids.
Oh my God, it was.
Or 2 days ago.
Okay. Any final thoughts before we close the book on J.J. Abrams forever, hopefully?
Thank God.
Yeah. He dies.
Well, kind of. I'm pretty sure Bad Robot is either shutting down or like they did mass layoffs. It's like after Rise of Skywalker, that dude just torched his fucking brand. So, I mean, good.
How could you not? Rise of Skywalker is the true contender for the worst movie I've ever seen.
It's the only movie I have ever yelled at in the middle of watching and gone, no, don't do it, no. And then they kissed and I was like, kill me, please.
I watched that movie and afterwards I said that I felt it was a genuine dementia simulator because I actually do think that. I think that it like simulates the experience of having dementia.
Just losing
to
your
like a
mind.
minor degree.
You're slowly just going to become Harry Plinkett. Am I going insane?
Am I going insane? And it was like taking your Glembiza and becoming 108 years old is nightmare of a film.
Well, the nightmare is over, but that doesn't mean you're not going back to sleep again later. We've got Section 31 coming up next. Until then, I've been Gayfish.
I've been Moss.
And I've been DemonMama.
And we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thanks to my patron, EVV. If you want to catch these episodes early and hear your name at the end of the episode, subscribe at patreon.com/gayfish.